Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters. It's time for the elimination game. TLO goes up against Stardust. Sorry for the little mistake in the graphic. It's actually all my fault, according to the producer, so I'll take that one on the chin. Hello, boys. Welcome to the desk once again. It's a difficult... I don't like elimination games. It's always sad games. Of course
But they're so much more exciting. But so much is in the line. It's the end of the road for one of these guys.
I like to look more so on the bright side, that one of these guys can continue to fight on. I don't like to think about one of these being eliminated.
I'm completely opposite to you. I like the fact that one has to go now. Pack their bags and get on a plane.
I don't even think we need to ask Todd what he is going to be like here. He's definitely on the negative side.
He's very negative.
Yeah, you just want to see this guy leave, right? You want to see one of these go home. No?
I don't even need to speak anymore. You just,
I mean,
you guys are just like bashing me 24/7.
Oh,
That's
come
not
on, man.
true.
It's only because we love you.
The only guys I want to see pack their bags and leave is you guys, actually.
Oh, see, there's the comeback. That's the Todd we know. Let's take a quick look at the bracket here, as we've started to develop the bracket quite well now, as we've had a couple of games, and only 2 are left remaining. Nuccio goes through in first place. Awesome result there for the Polish player. But down here towards the bottom, we have Stardust against TLO. Is our current game, and then of course the winner goes up against Patience in the decider to see who will be the 8th player to go through to the quarterfinals. So let's turn our attention to Stardust versus TLO then. This matchup is not a matchup that we've seen a lot in the past. It has happened a couple of times. It has happened in WCS before. What are your first thoughts?
You know, Stardust, I talked a little bit about his lack of form earlier. It felt like TLO too, though. Like, I mean, against Nurture, I fully expected him to win. You know, he's the guy that always says that ZvZ is what he loves the most, and now he kind of disappointed a little bit. You know, he creatively lost, so to speak. So now going up against somebody like Stardust, I feel like if TLO's on points, he's going to have a good chance, but Stardust is a little bit of a wild card in this group, because even though he's supposedly not doing as well as usually, he's still like, you know, a guy, you know, tournament-winning caliber player. So it's going to be interesting.
Stardust, I mean, we talked a little bit about it earlier on, but he's going through a really rough period right now. I mean, this is the first time he's actually come on stage. It's the first time we're talking with people back at home, but he's going through a really rough period in his career, probably, if not the roughest part he's ever been through. I mean, he just got knocked out of WCS, and come to think, obtaining a visa to play in WCS, to not being able to play in Season 1 because it wasn't ready yet, to then get a top 8 in Season 2, which is back on track, but then to fail in challenges, a big upset for
against
him.
an American player.
Against an American player.
Get off my lawn, man.
But, I mean, all hope is gone for BlizzCon now. But being so far down in the ranking, you just can't pick up... You'd have to win every single international tournament, and we know the percentage of that happening is so low.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to him. It just kind of felt like he was a little bit out of practice, maybe like some kind of, you know, mental problem with like maybe getting too many losses or practice-wise, but he's, again, not doing nearly as well. So like somebody like TLO, though, I don't know. I feel like both players in their primes, it would have been a big match, but now they're not in their prime. So I'm not sure. Like, we're supposed to hype this, but at the same time, I want to be truthful. Like,
it feels to me, or I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but TLO can pick on this weakness now, and it's a perfect opportunity for him to take a victory. And as you said, in the past, maybe this isn't a game that TLO could win because Stardust was really dominating last year. But now, in 2015, a weakened Stardust nowhere near where he used to be. This is TLO's game to potentially take, right?
Yeah, I think so. I certainly see the potential for TLO to take this one. No doubt he knows exactly how Stardust plays. He's one of those very aggressive Protosses. It's kind of funny when you look at the bracket of TLO. If he gets through Stardust, he's going to run into Patience, and both these guys are known for their hyper-aggression in the matchup.
Well, let's talk about one interesting part here, especially considering Stardust is up on screen. European Protoss style versus Korean Protoss style. This is something that Nurture brought up a little bit before, is that the Koreans aren't quite playing the same as the Europeans. Europeans are all about that 3-base blink play, but the Koreans are playing it slightly different.
Yeah, they kind of moved on from there pretty quickly. Parting showed the way for some time over there in Korea, but I think at this point, Classics kind of showed everyone that if you take it late game, you just play like a safe game to late game, absorb whatever the Zerg's doing, just make the perfect death ball, make Tempest counter whatever the Zerg's trying to do in late game. There's no real answer Zerg has late game to a perfect death ball.
And this makes me believe here, Todd, that TLO, I think, is well adversed and well practiced against the European playstyle. I mean, he picked up a win against Petru Drogo in the open bracket. But going up against Stardust, this is kind of a very different type of game he's about to play.
Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, as you know, as good as Stardust can be and like can mix in some different builds, it's always going to be fairly cheesy, I feel, a lot of the time. As soon as TLO can pick up any kind of information that will hint onto basically what Stardust is doing, I feel like TLO will be able to narrow it down enough that he's going to be able to pick the right decision in terms of how he's going to be trying to hold it off.
I don't know if this stat plays any part in this match, and you can tell me if it's wrong, but TLO against Cream Protoss players only has a 30% win rate in his career, so it's not the highest of win rates, but I think more so form is going to be the more important part to look at, right? More so than this number.
Yeah, and to be fair, looking at Stardust, like he's a great player, but I don't consider him as Korean as some of the other ones. Like he's not like he's had his own style for a while. You know, he has been in the foreign scene for a long time, so I feel like he's not, you know, exactly like all the other guys over in Korea, like not like Classic or Zess or any of those guys. He does have a certain style to it, which is a lot more aggressive in general.
Just say it, Moonglade.
Just say it, dude. Just come on, don't skirt around.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Mate, I would never say that. Not here, not when he's right behind me.
Maybe he can't.
He hasn't got his headset on yet. He's looking over.
Exactly.
He doesn't know that
He's
word.
looking over, and he's definitely shaking his head at us, so we should be quiet. Stardust has perfect English, by the way. Todd, last question here before we go to the cast. It's very, very last question. Is TLO a type of player that will get rattled by the loss versus Nurture? Because it was a very emotional loss. I know TLO, it definitely was.
I think in the heat of the moment, certainly, but by now he should be like fully recovered. And also, like that series to me is going to be the story of does Stardust still have quite a bit of fire in him or not?
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to go to the commentary team for not the decider. Sorry, it's the lower bracket game. One of these places going home. One gets to go to that decider one.
That's right, Sean. And you know what I just realized? That not a single Protoss has made it yet into the playoffs. Oh my god.
Oh, time for a balance patch. Davey, I hope you're watching. It's time to give those Colossus double range.
It's time for Immortals to be able to blink as well.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe Phoenix should be able to land, you know, something like that. Just please give us anything, David.
Protoss, they're just having a hard time right now, man. I mean, as a Zerg player, I just feel a bit sad because like it's just too easy when I'm playing ZvP. I'm sure TLO feels that way as well. I mean,
this is one way to piss off your Zerg fans, or Pick. I don't think you should be making such jokes. Either way, we have two Protoss players left in this group, and TLO, who is going to be the second player to advance from Group D and complete our top 8 at the Intel Extreme Masters Cologne. Let's go ahead and find out as we are loaded in to Coda for the first map of this best of 3. And of course, on the left top side of Coda, we're looking at this creative blue Zerg's base. He's of course representing Team Liquid. It's the Wunderwunsch, TLO. Look at that beard.
it's fantastic. Focus in his eyes as always, Dr. Dario. But is his creativity going to be enough to get through his Protoss opponent over here? He has a trickster Protoss. It is Stardust.
I've always felt though, whenever you put players like TLO and Nurture as well, it goes for both of these Zergs in Group D, they are very good against these Protosses that rely on their sort of gimmicky timings. And maybe gimmicky is not completely fair, because Stardust has been a very successful player over the years. People often forget this, but he has not only won a DreamHack, he also won WCS Europe 2014 Season 2, and that was a pretty stacked season back then, you know?
That was actually a really hard tournament.
Yeah, exactly, not easy
like
at all.
MC in there.
So he defeated Sun in the final 4-0. So Stardust has definitely had his moments of glory, but it's just been, he's never been the most consistent Protoss, and he is not the type of Protoss like Petit Drogo, like Lil Bao, who can execute Blinkstalker Sentry up to the level of almost, you know, the top Korean standards, the players that Moonglade just mentioned, the Classics, the Zest. But Stardust is very scary in its own way. However, I've always felt that TLO excels in when games go a little crazy, when they go, you know, off what we're expected, off the tracks a little bit. I think in general TLO is very good in managing chaos.
Oh, look at this drone hiding from this probe. Oh, but Probe doesn't even go into the main base. He just says, hey, there's no hatchery down. I'm just going to block this. He's assuming there's no early pool there, and then wants to go into the main to check it out, and perfect.
That's really cool.
Using that Overlord for vision. Nice pickup for TLO. I definitely agree with you, Roddy. I think TLO is one of these guys who's got such great knowledge of the game, and he's also played the other races at a very high level in the past. So he's very good at reading into very small scouting tells and understanding the limitations of what his opponent's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, TLO is mostly known for his Zerg these days, but he played Terran for a very long time, even played in the GSL with his Terran. But even his Protoss, he definitely had a while where he went through life as a random player, and I played against his Protoss a long time ago, 2011 we're talking about, so it doesn't mean that much, but back then he played Protoss at a pretty damn respectable level as well, so he's just an all-around pretty well-rounded player. Sometimes falls short against like the most stand-up stuff, because TLO is always kind of the type of player as well that wants to make something happen, so every now and then you watch these type of games where it feels like TLO is just running into this concrete wall over and over again because he's so desperately trying to make something happen and it's not really coming together. But whenever you play against a player like Stardust, Stardust is also a player who likes to make something happen, and I definitely think that can play into TLO's strengths.
Yeah, it can often give us a really exciting match to spectate as well. You get a lot of these stock standard Zerg players, and sometimes they watch TLO and, they'll get together and they'll be shaking their heads thinking, why is he doing this little thing? Why is he doing that? He just needs to focus on these essentials, but it allows players like Stardust and TLO to make these really cool situations happen. They sometimes turn games completely upside down. You can think of Stardust versus Jadong in WCS Finals in Toronto. They had a crazy game in the groups. And it's these sort of situations where these players excel.
And of course, Stardust is looking for a little bit of redemption as well. Recently not making it into WCS Premier League, losing to the American Protoss player, you could perhaps say the American Classic, which is Neep, who used to be a Terran player, then made the switch to Protoss and managed to defeat Stardust in a very important best of 5. The opening so far, it's Pool into Hatch Gasless for TLO against Stardust, who went Forge Fast Expand. And just the other day I was talking with Zoka a little bit, who doesn't really play a whole lot of StarCraft anymore, but still watches a lot, and he said, in my opinion, you're already in a world of trouble as a Protoss. If you go Forge Fast Expand against a Zerg with 3 hatcheries and you don't cannon rush, you're in trouble. I wouldn't go that far, would you?
I wouldn't think so. I think it's a very specific style, and it does give Zerg freedom in the early game. So a lot of Protoss players rely on throwing Zerg players off. I think if you do this, you need to know your follow-ups down to the T. And I think Stardust is a player who's been doing this even at his most successful time. He's loved this. Very nice Zealot attack coming in here, actually getting a drone kill very quickly, just forcing a bit of distraction from TLO, a little bit of lost mining time as well. Interestingly, we see a very fast +1 for Stardust here, but it looks like he might actually just want to go take a third base behind this this Zealot Stalker pressure.
That's a very quick third base, because if we take a look at the infrastructure, it's non-existent right now for Stardust.
That's a one gate third.
Exactly. This is a Wydra build. Wydra used to do this on Daybreak, and I always giggled. I was like, there's no way you can ever keep this base alive, Wydra. And then he actually managed to keep it alive with some good Sim City. But of course, Coda is a little more wide open than Daybreak has ever been. I kind of wonder though, if you're TLO right now, you can deal with this in two ways. One, you're going to create a lot of units and try to overrun it, or you just do the complete opposite and you actually drone up like a madman, because Protoss won't be super aggro to you.
Take that fast 4th base and kind of move up from there. Now, interestingly, TLO is actually committing to a lot of Roaches and Zergling speed here, so he's committing to a big attack, and this is so good against what Stardust's doing. He's spotted the Nexus, he's spotted the low number of units. Guess what? There's one sentry out with 1 force field. He's going to hit in about a minute's time with a huge swell of Zerglings and Roaches. There's no way Stardust can defend that third base.
It's kind of weird that he made the Roaches and then more drones, and then soon he's going to make the Lynx, right? Wouldn't it be more optimal to make the drones and then the Roaches and then the Lynx?
This is a little bit of a kind of greedy way of doing it. Basically, you're saying, because my Roaches are going across the map and they take so long to get over there, I can squeeze in just a couple drones and still have a Ling reinforce, but it's not going to be as many Zerglings as he'd otherwise have. So this is not as big a commitment as we usually see, and it means he's going to have to micro really well to get in here and stop this Nexus.
I'm not sure how I feel about this, because I kind of feel like either you go all out or you don't do it at all, but this seems like a half-half commitment for TLO. He's going to start working on this Forge, and he might actually be able to cancel +2 for a bit, but it also means he's going to lose the majority of his units. He will be able to get the cancel. You can't make that cannon anymore after you lost your Forge, Stardust. But I think just losing my Forge here, yeah, it stings a little bit. You would like to get +2 as quick as possible. But I also don't think it's the end of the world. TLO slowed down his own economy.
I don't think that was worthwhile. Stardust's gotten away with such a greedy opening now. I mean, it's not the end of the world. TLO has droned up very greedily behind this. He does have upgrades going. He does have his lair going. He's got a bit of creep spread. But I do feel if he committed a big wave of Zerglings, I mean, what did Stardust have? A few sentries at his natural wall? There's no way he could defend that third if there was an extra 30 Zerglings coming in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's just a hard call to make because you are playing with your tournament life on the line right now, or at least almost on the line. This is a best of 3. Losing the first map isn't exactly curtains yet, but you're getting very close to being eliminated then. TLO didn't want to put all of his eggs in one basket, but I'm with you, Pig. I think that would have gone very well if he would have just gone all out with roaches and lynx.
Ooh. Could you check for me, Roddy? Did that Phoenix actually spot that infestation pit in the back of TLO's natural? Looks like it did, so I'm not sure if Stardust had time to click on it as it died the moment it saw it. But that's a really important piece of scouting, knowing that, of course, TLO wants to probably be heading towards those infestors and potentially Hive later on. And look at this, just a huge commitment to Blink now, a good number of sentries. Stardust wants to get on the map, and he wants to make TLO very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Despite the fact that Stardust went up to 3 bases that quickly, he didn't produce a ridiculous amount of drones, probes, because he's only at 51 right now, and 3 just popped. So before that, it was 48 all along. So Stardust is definitely in a position right now where he wants to do some serious work as well, and it's possible for sure because he has a lot of force fields available. We're looking at a time warp as well, and we're looking at a lot of stalkers.
TLO needs to be really careful. I'm not sure if he realizes just how few probes Stardust has. He needs to take a very careful engagement here. He can't let his forces get too split up by these force fields, and he's actually supply blocked right now, so this is very scary for TLO.
It will all come down to the execution. Maybe TLO could set up a flank, but it's very risky because if one army gets completely force fielded out, then your flank is not going to work anymore. These sentries are suddenly very exposed there.
That blink was a bit off from Stardust, just blinking all of his stalkers back and abandoning the sentries. A little bit of an odd move, but he does just have so many stalkers blinking forward on top of the Hydras now. A lot of the stalkers are going down, but TLO, he doesn't have many units here. He needs to keep the bulk of these Hydras alive, or else his damage potential is just gone.
Yeah, he's warping in so many stalkers, though. He's doing this off 7 gateways. Stalkers do have +1. He's losing a lot now again with another questionable forward blink. Of course, you could say it's still looking okay-ish for Stardust. He's just killed a lot of drones.
If he can get on top of these last Hydralisks, then he can end this right here, right now. But TLO's got more Hydras joining the fray. It's all about that fall of units. If TLO can consolidate and hang on, these Hydras get stronger and stronger as their numbers grow.
Yep, just need to attack move right here. Don't right-click on the Stalkers, because if they blink back, there we go. That happened once again, and you lose a lot of potential damage output. So now the fight is indeed snowballing into Stardust's favors once more, as he's going to chase a couple of these roaches and Hydras. TLO lost a lot of drones, and just like that, Stardust will be able to win game number 1 on Coda.
I gotta say, I think TLO's attack didn't work out. I think you called it. You said it's really weird how he's squeezing those drones in there. It made it very non-committal, but killing a Forge for the amount he delayed his economy, I don't think that was enough damage. And TLO's got to be kicking himself, realizing that he let Stardust get away with such a greedy build.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Dario will have a little bit of time to think about it, as we are going to take a very quick break, and after that we'll be back with game number 2 between TLO and Stardust. Alrighty, welcome back to TLO vs Stardust, where we are ready to hop into game number 2 that is going to be played on Iron Fortress. Questionable decision making by TLO in game number 1, and that's not something we're used to.
It's so weird because he did spot the early Nexus, and it was right after he spotted that he actually committed to those roaches. So you feel like you're really aiming to kill the third there. Now, it's standard to attack the wall in first, force more warp ins there, force them to commit their defense, and then go to the third base, right? But he just didn't have enough units. It was such a small link reinforcer. A lapse in judgment, which we're not used to seeing from TLO.
Absolutely not. So you guys can see we are loaded into game number 2, where we're currently looking at the main base of our Protoss, a former WCS and DreamHack champion. He wants to move on to the quarterfinals. It is Stardust. Of course, that's still a long ways off, because even if he wins this series, he's going to have to get another chance at Patience, who was able to defeat him earlier today.
First of all, he does need to finish off his Zerg opponent. Spawning up here in the top left of Iron Fortress, it is Liquid's TLO.
You know, Big, it's not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but I think what we said on on Coda, and I was glad that you agreed with me, is like, I feel whenever Protoss does builds like that, there's two ways. One, you go all out on units. Two, you go all out on drones. I feel the moment you're doing an in-between, it becomes very risky, because most of the time, the Protoss will barely have enough to hang in there, and then suddenly they're in a phenomenal position.
I was actually talking to Snoot about that build a while back, and we were talking about the difference between, you know, do you build 30 Zerglings to reinforce, or do you build 60 Zerglings? But what we saw there from TLO was like, you know, 15, not even 20 Zerglings, not very many at all. And I think after about 30, 40 Zerglings, you want to be droning earlier than that, right? But that sort of commitment, it just wasn't enough. And the Zerglings really are what wrap around behind the sentries. They're what give you that high damage to focus down something important like a Nexus.
Exactly. Like, you looked at that army of TLO, and you look at it and you're like, all right, there's no way this will ever be able to kill a full HP Nexus with Photon Overcharge. If there are 2 or 3 gateway units right next to it, then 6, 7 roaches and a few links will just not kill a Nexus with a mothership core hovering above it as well. So that's why I was still a little bit surprised by it. But hopefully things will be able to get together a little better for TLO in game number 2. Cool opening over here by Stardust. I do like this opening. I like it a little more than the one that he went for on Coda. Of course, on Coda it was more like, I hope you're going to go hedge first. And if you do, I'll probably cannon rush you. But I like this, man. I'm a fan of Nexus first, into Forge, no scout.
I mean, you're a game up. Take the risk, right? Get that little edge. If memory serves me as well, Stardust the guy, when he gets a greedy opening like this and he's up a game, he might go back to that classic build we used to see from him all the time, the old Stardust 7-gate. I think, if I remember correctly, the real tell for whether or not that's coming is if we see a very fast Stalker coming out of that gateway. And normally, we will see that +1 kick in before the 6-minute mark starts.
He also used to have this trademark double Forge build. You remember that? Like, Stardust always going double Forge.
The old, the DreamHack winning Immortal 2-1 Charge Lot Immortal build off 2 base. That was absolutely crazy.
Good old Stardust. Definitely a player who's always had his own approach to the game as well, and I do like that. Like, I love players like Rain and Zest who are just rock solid, don't get me wrong, but it's very nice to see people also being successful with their own ways, and, you know, that always has to be possible, because if that's not possible anymore, then we are, you know, looking at a pretty boring game in the end, because everyone is just going to try to do the same thing and do it slightly better. But it's nice to see people think out of the box, come up with their own creative plays, and that goes for TLO in particular. But even for Stardust, and it's nice to still see him having a lot of success, even though this has been a rough year, of course.
Yeah, amazing to spectate is Stardust. Horrible to play against is what we say, because he's such a wild card, throws out those crazy builds, and hey, look at that, 5-minute 10, Robo going down to this natural. That is a very fast robotics facility. Going to be able to do a very fast warp prism off that, or a very early immortal all in. TLO Zerglings coming over though. If they can scout this nice and early by running right up to that wall, that will give him a lot of time to prepare for this.
Yeah, much quicker gas this time for TLO as well, so he's getting speed a lot quicker. I think it's going to be down roughly maybe 650. So it's not like a hatch into gas immediately. Oh wait, he cancelled it, right? Yep, he cancelled it over there after he scouted the
actually the he cancelled what, sorry?
He cancelled Zergling speed.
Oh, okay, very smart adjustment. This is the Liquid Zerg build, where he actually delays 2 of his queens so that he can get both a fast Zergling speed and a 3rd hatchery. It's a really cool build invented by the Liquid players. And of course, Stardust coming out with this Stalker. These Zerglings never ran up to that wall. They have no idea there's a fast robo. And look at that on that production tab. We already see Immortals starting to pop out. This is such a fast robotics, and he is going into 4 gases. It looks like we're just going to see a big old classic Sentry Immortal all in.
But what I don't get is speed is like 50, 60 seconds in, then he cancels it, starts the layer, and starts speed again. Is that like really worth it?
I mean, with a Forge Expand, normally you just look at it and you say, there's no way he's going to hit me before 8 minutes. So there's just no need for it. So maybe he can afford another drone or 2. It's a very slight efficiency choice. But realistically, it is maybe not worthwhile, but if we look at this, pressure's not going to come out for another minute or so. Ling speed will kick in by then, so I can actually get behind that choice from TLO.
But imagine if there would have been, like, if you would have Chrono Boost Warp Gate twice, that's something that TLO couldn't have possibly known, and there would have been a little bit of 3 or 4 gateway pressure with a Mothership Core, then, like Sona, you're going to have a very, very hard time with your slow Zerglings if he wipes in a bunch of Stalkers.
I got to agree, there is that possibility. It is so far outside of the meta since we've seen those sort of pressures off a Forge opening, though, so yeah. I can get behind TLO taking that sort of risk. A very fast Hydra Den going down for him before the 8-minute mark even. I think this is a great situation. Even though he hasn't spotted the Robo, TLO's doing a very economic build. Ooh, unfortunately, though, he's putting down an Infestation Pit, and he's still droning very hard up to 6 gases. TLO needs to be very careful. If he drones up to full saturation on 3 bases and starts teching towards Hive, he has 0 chance of holding this. He'll just have invested too much in economy and tech.
I mean, this is just a very, very old school build over here by Stardust. You know, this is spotting Soul Train, no more, no less. You know, there's absolutely nothing different about it. He's leaving his natural at 8 minutes and 40 seconds. That's very quick. That's something that Parting always told us. You know, like you pretty much want to leave your natural at the 9-minute mark or a little bit before that. Get your 8 gateways ready and march across the map. And that is exactly what's going on over here. 6 Hydralisks are on the production tab now. It's so useful that TLO already has a couple creep tumors. It's not overwhelming, but this helps so incredibly much already.
It really does help. And keep in mind, this is such a wide open area. He can push up the ramp towards the 3rd, but with creep there and having to force his way up a narrow ramp, up against the superior range of the Hydralisks, this is going to be a very hard push for Stardust to make work. For TLO's side of things, he doesn't want to lose the Hydralisks early. He wants to let them build up in number, doesn't want to let them get trapped up front by the force fields.
Exactly. It's always tricky, of course, because we are looking at a lot of sentries. Let's see how good the force fields will be. 1 sentry falls immediately. 2 other sentries are running relatively low on HP, but they're all still alive. Stardust slowly but steady trying to make his way forward. Few more Stalkers being wiped in. There is an Observer in the mix now, so he can pick off a creep tumor.
Oh, I love this Hydralisk at the back for TLO. It's just coming in, poking that Warp Prism, trying to annoy Stardust, trying to buy time. And he comes in one more time. Very good round of force fields. TLO pulling drones into the fray. The drones go down in an instant, as do a couple of Queens. The supply is so close right now. Oh, TLO only has a small group of Hydralisks. He needs more time. Luckily for him, there aren't many force fields left for Stardust, but those sentries are regaining energy.
It's 55 army supply right now against 55. TLO has a lot of units on the production tab. Normally you want to be up in supply as Zerg, but he has so many Hydras that even supply is good. The Warp Prism is probably going to get picked off here immediately.
Oh,
that's very nice.
These Hydralisks, a lot of them are still fighting, but the ones at the front are getting shot down very quickly. There's no energy for Guardian Shield. Oh, pulls back the weakened Immortal. The sentries going into the front of the fray, though. Oh, Stardust losing a lot of his high-value units.
Yeah, it's starting to look better and better for TLO. Pushing Stardust down from the high ground. Has to be careful he doesn't chase too far off creep because these Hydras are slow. They don't have Roach Hydra speed.
Oh no, those force fields are great. The Zealots actually paying for their weight in gold, knocking down his Hydralisk count. We were talking about how TLO needs to preserve that Hydralisk count. He needs to let them ball up. And that push down the ramp, those 2 killer force fields, that may have put Stardust in a winning position here.
Yeah, it's still pretty damn close. With 4 more Hydras in the way, 1 Immortal running very low. Don't chase. TLO can't chase. You don't have Hydra speed. He has Hydra range, which of course is the correct choice. When you're just defending, you don't really need Hydra speed. You do need it, however, when you start chasing units off creep.
Oh, he's putting down another creep tumor, and it looks like Stardust is actually withdrawing. But he's still warping in units. He might just be looking to come in from a different angle.
Yes, because, well, if you lose both pylons, he also lost the Warp Prism, so that's going to be very tricky. He has one more backup pylon, and that's where he's warping in units right now.
TLO's building drones. He's building drones, overlords, and upgrades. He thinks Stardust's gone home. He doesn't realize he's just going to come in with another wave. And TLO is down on supply right now. He needs every single bit of money put into Hydralisks. That being said, if he can get a little bit more time, these drones may be able to pay for themselves.
He just killed the Observer. That's very nice with either the Spore Crawler or the Hydralisk. So that's a very useful little pickup. That means that these creep tumors are going to survive, especially this latest tumor. That's really going to help him a lot, because now whenever Stardust wants to fight, he really has to step on creep, and I actually don't think he wants to do that.
Oh, stops the extra probe that's coming out to build further up pylons with his Zergling as well. That's a really nice pickup for TLO. As we kept saying, he needs time. He's still down in supply here. He's up about 10 workers, which means his army supply is even lower than it otherwise looks. He's getting up a ball of Hydralisks, but he needs about 10 to 15 more before he can really shut down these Zealots at the front.
Where do you think is the best location for TLO to fight right now?
Anywhere in a wide open area where he can try and avoid force field. If his Hydras get too balled up, force fields can just trap too many at the front, and that's what TLO needs to avoid. The only time he can let his Hydralisks get trapped is when Stardust's walking into a sick concave. Look at this spreading of TLO. He's setting this up really nicely. Ooh, it's so hard for Stardust to move in here, but he does just have such huge numbers. He just needs to find a way to make the Zealots worthwhile. Without good force fields, the Zealots aren't going to be good.
He has to be very careful that he doesn't start a fight with the Stalker, Sentries, and Immortals in the front, because these Zealots, they just will never participate in the battle. Like this right now, I don't think these Zealots would ever actually participate, so I don't think he should really commit to it. We're looking at 10 Sentries, by the way, a ridiculous amount of Zealots, but these Zealots, they don't have charge, they're not super scary. The supply is a little bit deceiving, because Stardust's army can be extremely counterproductive. TLO starts Hive during all of this. I'm not exactly sure about that one, but maybe. I mean, Blinding Cloud would obviously be absolutely phenomenal against his army, but that's such a risky call to make.
Oh, this army is so big from Stardust. There's just so many units here. That's not a lot of Hydralisks. And, oh, killer force fields trap about 8, 10 Hydralisks at the front of the fight. The other Hydralisks are barely fighting. That is the pickup Stardust needed. Look at the supply difference. Up 20 supply. TLO is in such a hard spot right now. I don't know if he can ever get that critical mass of Hydralisks we're talking about.
And just look at the units lost resource tab as well. You know, TLO has just lost way more in this game than Stardust. He has mined a little bit more, but not really all that much more. Stardust thought for a second about committing to the high ground, but he wants to play it safe. This is the slowest Immortal Sentry all-in I have ever seen, but he's making it work.
Such careful micro from Stardust. This is where he excels. He's so good at taking engagements, so good at using his force fields, and TLO is just always a little bit too low in these unit numbers to punish Stardust. Each time Stardust comes forward, he seems to be getting more and more efficient trades.
Quite a few Overlords have died for absolutely no reason either. Stardust would love to try to push the issue. I don't think he's aware at all that Hive is about to finish up, because no Zerg in his right mind would ever go Hive while being under so much pressure. But TLO is not your ordinary Zerg. He is going to start his first Viper. One Viper will probably not make the difference. 2 or 3, I will start believing. This is insane. I have never seen a Protoss have 177 supply and his army being this trashy. There's no other way to put it. These Stalkers don't have Blink, they don't have +2.
This is a Stardust army, Roddy. Only Stardust would be here. Let's keep in mind, those sentries have actually gathered up a lot more energy now, but the Queens are also starting to gather up energy. Oh, he's coming in for the fight. He wants to take it, trapping so many Hydralisks on the ramp, and Stardust stepping to the left-hand side. The Hydralisks from TLO trying to readjust. They know they need to fight together. The Guardian Shields are reducing the damage so much. Stardust's numbers are overpowering.
Yes, they are, but this army is still bad, though, from Stardust. As long as TLO can keep a nice amount of Hydras alive, I would say that the dream is alive. 5 more Hydras are on the way.
Oh, the Viper flies into its death. Oh.
There's one more, though. There is one more. Oh, those force fields are very nice, though. Even the Blinding Cloud is pretty damn nice, too. A couple of these Protoss units are not fighting, but it does not matter. And Stardust just had too much. On a certain point, he had 191 supply of Stalkers, Zealots, Immortals, and Sentries with just +1, no Blink, no charge. I have not seen that since the Wings of Liberty days, but Stardust made it work.
Stardust is just such a hard player to play against. I mean, he's so unique and he understands what he's doing so well. You've got to take your hat off to him. A tough loss for TLO. It's always hard to go down in one of those games where you think you've held off the Immortal Sentry and it just keeps going. And just a few of those waves of force fields just cutting down those Hydralisk numbers. if I got to look back at where that game really, I think, turned upside down, it was when TLO first chased Stardust down that ramp
creep.
and lost about 9 Hydralisks off creep down the ramp. And I think if he kept those alive, he would have been able to consolidate those numbers, very patiently defend. And I think things may have turned out differently, but just that tiny mistake.
Couldn't agree more. Either way, Stardust will move on to play against Patience. But first, let's hear some words from him as he's on the desk with Sean.
Thank you very much, Rotterdam and Pig, of course. Wonderful cast together, boys. Joined here by Stardust, who makes it from the elimination game into the decider match.
Yes.
The first question I have to ask you is about style, more so.
Yes.
This is something we talked about a lot. European players have a very different style to you, to Patience, to some other Korean Protoss players.
Yes.
Why do you think this is? Why do you play so different?
Because different person, yeah.
Because different person?
Yes.
Well, I guess you win, right? And the other guys have lost.
In my opinion, it's like European and American Protoss player is more like mind game. So that's why I think. And Korean people want to do like stable strategy because they have like Pro League and a lot of practice for like helping Pro League. So that's why.
Okay, Todd, so you got some questions for Mr.
Yeah,
Stardust?
while the second game was going on, Apollo was complaining to me that Protoss is, broken and cheesy. What do you think about this? What do you have to say to him?
Yeah, man.
At the beginning of my Immortal Orient, and TLO sacrificed so many drones. So that's why I pull back my army and then like retreat. That's why. And then if he don't losing any drone, then this game is completely over.
I think he, when you pulled back, he expected you to take the third, and he droned a lot, I think. What was it? He added on about 10 extra drones or so, maybe a little bit more? I think so, right?
Something
after,
like that.
After you pulled back, and then he was in a bit of a weird situation.
But I think
when he
like
realized.
the turning points to me was when you force-fielded his army, because if he had been everything down, he would have had a chance, I think. But your army is still looking pretty massive, especially for somebody being on 2 base. So do you agree? Protoss is cheesy?
Yeah, kind of. Protoss is simple. When you go all in, simple.
How so?
Just go all in and then
Win or lose.
win or lose, but we have one more chance. If you fail, then you need to thinking, what should I do? And now.
That sounds like a game of gamble but with great odds.
Yeah,
actually.
And then recently I play some like poker. Then I realized I'm gamble people. So
You're a gamble person.
yeah, because for a while I don't try like next expansion without like purge or gate for a long time. And then I just decided I should do this because it gives a lot of pressure and mind game, and this is good like a part for me. So I should using this part. That's my like realize.
So a lot of people say that poker and StarCraft 2 have similarities. I guess you agree then, right?
Just at the opening, yeah.
Just for the opening?
Yeah, poker is, your card is not run away, but your army is run away in StarCraft. You can throw in your like army.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, I think. Maybe
Yes.
a little lost.
At the beginning, it's pretty similar,
Okay.
I think. They have like 10 different strategy for opening each other.
Right. Okay.
It's a game of incomplete information, both
Yeah.
of them. And then by playing aggressive, you gain some information, I guess is what it means. You have to play Patience next.
Yes.
And it's a rematch. Last time you lost 1 and 2. I saw the first map.
Let me jump in here too. He said, maybe he's lying, but he said it was a really close series and it really could have gone either way. Was he telling the truth or?
In the basic, I was very behind, but he make a lot of mistakes. That's why the game looked like pretty close, but it wasn't.
Okay, so 2 sides of the story. That's what you said might be the case.
What's going on? Is your PvP good now? Or you lost to Neve in Challenger and then you lost to me when we could go on ladder. What happened, man?
Actually, I lost my passion about StarCraft 2 for now because I'm living in America, and before I moved to America, I thought I can practice in NA for NA ladder because of their people, so I can practice, but it wasn't because I'm living in middle of like America, and I have a pretty same latency to Korea and Europe, and then that's why
Stuck in the middle, can't do both.
It's pretty horrible.
Yeah. Okay, well, any last questions for on Patience subject?
Just what do you think? How do you think he's going to go this time around against Patience? Can you take him?
Actually, like in like 6 months, the peel in the player booth is best. So I can say I have pretty high chance to beat Patience this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Stardust.
Thank you very much.
And he'll be going to the decider match, which is just around the corner. Make sure to go to plays.tv for all the action that you've missed over the last couple of days as we draw closer to the top 8. Will it be Stardust or will it be Patience?
Yeah.